Hi guys, welcome back to the Hugh video. In this video, I'm going to be repairing and customizing this Xbox 360 Slim I purchased for 60 Australian dollars. It has a known faulty power button, so the device currently won't power on. While fixing the power button, I'll also be installing a new transparent casing so we can see the insides of this console. I've previously made a transparent purple Sony PlayStation 2, but it's time I customized Microsoft's Xbox. In its current condition, the console has a few marks and scrapes along the side and front panels, although of course, as we're installing a new casing on this, we will be removing all that for a awesome custom looking transparent light up Xbox 360. Included with my purchase was of course the console itself, a power brick and the cable for that brick, as well as one wireless controller. You can see the controller itself is quite filthy, so we're going to be cleaning that up later on. For our custom housing, I'm going to be using this one from Topcase. It is transparent and includes a little adapter so we can get some LEDs inside of this to make it glow blue. You can see these are identical to the original panels, except being of course that they're transparent. Now, as for the Xbox itself, you can see plugging it in, it doesn't light up when the power button is pressed. So it's time to actually fix this console and get it looking really awesome. And to do this, we're going to need to disassemble the entire device. Unlike the PlayStation 2 I modified a few months ago, this Xbox 360 is held together with nothing but plastic clips on the outer casing. After removing the venting on the bottom, I can attempt to remove the main bottom piece, which is held in with several large clips. However, these large clips are very hard to access even with a long prying tool. The main bottom piece consists of two parts: the bezel, which houses the large clips, and the middle section, which adds support. This middle section is melted in several sections to the bezel. As I'm replacing my casing, I proceeded with less care. After several minutes of trying, I ended up using brute force, which I wouldn't recommend if you're planning to reuse your case. Now that we have the base off, it's time to proceed on the top. Now it's a pretty similar process as before, with the same main ventilation, bezel, and mid support piece. However, this time the clips are even harder to access as the clips themselves are hidden under this middle support section. This section is fused to the bezel with the use of melted plastic pegs. Now I tried yet again for another 10 or 15 minutes to get this out. In the end, I decided that removing this middle piece would give me access to those clips. In doing this, I broke off those melted plastic pegs which were securing that middle piece inside. We won't be needing this for our final Xbox, so I wasn't too fussed with doing this. Now I have perfect access to get all those clips undone for that top section. With that removed, you guessed it, there's more clips. Working on the sides of the Xbox, we can carefully undo the clips and watch as my Xbox goes flying all over my table. Next, we can undo some more plastic clips and carefully remove that front panel. Now the power button and eject buttons are still attached with a very fragile flex cable. Laying the console on its side, we can then disconnect the one flex cable going to the main power control board. With the front bezel removed, I'm going to unscrew and replace the power control board. This is apparently the issue with this Xbox 360, and replacing this little board should bring our Xbox back to life. So I purchased a replacement from eBay, and after a few weeks it rocked up and I could install it in the Xbox. Of course, I want to test out the console before we go ahead and proceed any further with the repair, and you can see that this was indeed the issue with this console. So now that we know it works, it's time to go ahead and proceed with our customization. I'll need to take off the main power button and eject button cable. You'll notice that it has been fused, just like many of the other pieces inside of this console, by using plastic pegs which have been melted into place rather than using screws. It's really obvious that this device was not meant to be opened, repaired, or customized in any way. I'm going to start by loosening up the main cable here, and to do this I'm just applying some alcohol to my spudger and pick as I slowly work along this cable, being very gentle and careful not to damage it. Now to actually get out this main power button, I'm going to be using a soldering iron to melt the plastic, which should allow me to separate the power button and the front bezel. Now you could alternatively drill this out, but I didn't have a drill on hand, so the soldering iron worked just as well. With enough heat and some prying later, the power button is officially loose. I'll need to do the same thing with the eject button, of course being very careful of the cable itself, as I don't want to burn a hole straight through that. Once I've melted the plastic enough, I can remove that plastic piece holding on the eject button sensor, and we can peel off the adhesive and remove it from the front bezel. I can now reinstall the cable we just removed into the new front plate. The eject key will just be held in place by the adhesive on the cable itself, and the power button I'll attach by using a few washers and screws, which is a much better system than how it was originally installed. When installing screws into plastic which don't yet contain any screw thread, I start by slowly winding and unwinding the screw, allowing the thread to be created, and reducing the pressure on the plastic standoffs. If you apply too much pressure, it's likely that the standoff will snap, as it's only made from plastic. Next, we can move back across to the console itself and remove all of the black screws on the bottom, which are holding the top panel in place. Once those screws have been removed, we can flip it over and take off that panel, remove a layer of shielding, and finally we're inside the device. Now, my kit also came with these LED lights which tap into the DVD drive power, so we can get a cool blue LED effect going on inside of this case. Of course, this is an optional extra and you don't have to install this if you don't want to, but I will be installing them, they just stick into place. So I'll need to remove the DVD drive, a few more screws on the bottom which are holding in the hard drive tray, and this will give me access to the DVD drive power cable, and I'll need to disconnect the original one and connect up our modified one which contains the LEDs. Unfortunately, these LEDs aren't very big and they're also wired together, so you can't separate them too much. I opted to install one at the front of the console so the light would be directed through and up the console, and I aim to install one on this side. However, I noticed when I installed the DVD drive there was no room for it, so I opted just to install it on the end of the DVD drive. This was really the only spot that I could put it that the light would be visible inside the console. Feeding the wire into place, we can connect the DVD drive power cable, reconnect the cable itself going to the DVD drive, and apply a zip tie to neaten up the wires. It's now time to reconnect the DVD drive and hard drive caddy back into the console. Now this Xbox 360 doesn't contain a hard drive, although I will install one in the future. I can remove the I/O shield and screw in all of the screws that we removed earlier, holding the inside of this console together. I can install the new clear I/O shield and the surround going around the fan. And as you can see, this Xbox 360 is coming together quite nicely. You can see where I've positioned the LEDs, and if you wanted to, you could solder on some more LEDs if you wanted to put them in different places around the console. But for me, I was quite happy with where they were placed, and I'm going to proceed by reinstalling the new plastic pieces, which of course are transparent. Now, when installing the top case, I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the front panel, and that is slowly wind in and unwind the screw, and as you can see here that it is slowly creating the thread in the plastic standoffs. I have heard of people snapping these standoffs by not doing this and just forcefully installing the screw. With the top panel installed, it's time to connect the front panel and give this Xbox a quick test. So I plugged in the power adapter, pressed the power button, and you can see the console is booting up, although I don't have a TV plugged into it, and you can see the LEDs are also coming to life. Once we're happy, it's time to continue on and get this project finished. So I can install the bottom plate and clip on the front panel, and then it's time to take our attention to the bottom, where I can clip in the bezel and the venting. I won't be reinstalling the support pieces as they're black and sort of ruin the look. I also didn't reinstall the shielding on the top of the console, as of course that would hide all of the insides of the device, ruining the whole clear case look. I can proceed with the top of the device, installing its bezel and grille into place. The last thing that's left to do is transfer across the rubber feet from the bottom of the console and the sides. Pulling these off of the old pieces we removed earlier, I can stick them onto the new clear transparent casing. As for the controller, I'm going to be giving that a good clean with some alcohol so I can actually feel comfortable in using this. I will also be making this transparent to match the Xbox, however due to postage delays caused by the current pandemic, I will be leaving this for another time. And with that, we have completed our custom transparent LED Xbox 360 Slim. I love to see the inside of devices, especially as they're running, so I think this modification looks great. Unfortunately, this company doesn't make cases for newer devices, hence why I did this to an older Xbox. The custom case can be purchased for $66 from the US, and all up, with the cost of the console and replacement power button, I spent 140 Australian dollars. Under studio lighting, you don't get the full effect of the LEDs inside the case. You really need to be in a dark environment to see the full effect. You could also solder in a switch on the back if you wanted to be able to control the lights and turn them on and off when you wanted to. Included was a transparent DVD drive cover, which I didn't install in the end as I preferred the Xbox 360 branding. Now that I have this really cool Xbox, all I need are some good games to play on it. And on that note, this has been a Hugh Jeffries video. If you like what you saw, hit that subscribe button and consider checking out the custom tech playlist for more videos just like this one. Also make sure to follow me on my social media, link for which is down in the description. That's all for this video, and I'll catch you guys next time.